This is an all-day live alert.
We are hearing from the Faribault Police Chief on a suspicious death there. Let's listen in.
What they believe to be a deceased male inside the residence, with other evidence that was suspicious in nature. At that time, we sealed off the residence and treated it as a crime scene to conduct further investigation, including seeking a search warrant to search the residence. Officers that were on scene quickly realized that the believed victim inside, that their car was absent from the residence. So we placed a alert on the vehicle that was distributed to the upper Midwest region. And quickly we realized that that vehicle was in possession of a law enforcement agency in Iowa. So throughout the night, our investigators worked at the scene. We requested assistance from the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. They sent investigators to assist, as well as their crime scene team, to process the home for evidence. And you know, overnight, that investigation continued to this morning. I can tell you that the autopsy in this investigation is ongoing at this time. I expected that we would have at least an identification, a positive identification of the victim at this time, but we have not received that yet from the medical examiner's office, so unfortunately I cannot provide you an official identity at this moment of the deceased. But I can tell you that the preliminary results show that the victim died of homicidal violence. And that's where we're at, continuing with our homicide investigation. You know, we're continuing to work with the BCA. We had assistance yesterday at the scene from the Rice County Sheriff's Office as well, that assisted us in gathering information from residents and neighbors of the home that's in question on Mitchell Drive. And that's where we're at this point. I'm happy to try and answer any of your questions or add clarity to the press release that was provided.
Chief, when you say homicidal violence, can you kind of give us any pointers? Is it like stabbing, shooting? Can you share anything?
I can tell you that the autopsy is not complete yet, but there are wounds that are consistent with trauma to the body. The nature exactly, I can't disclose at this time, or I'm not even fully aware of the extent at this point.
Anywhere, can you share like where on the body or to what extent with the injuries?
To the extent that there are numerous injuries that are evaluated and will be a part of that final autopsy finding. So.
A history with the house of any kind? Have you been there before?
We've had a few routine calls for service, but nothing of note, I would say.
Where did you guys find the car in Iowa? And were you able to find somebody with the car?
So that information is one of those things that's part of the investigation that I wouldn't want to release at this time, as not to compromise further investigation on our end.
So there's nobody in custody yet?
We have no one in custody at this point in time. Certainly the circumstances surrounding the recovery of the vehicle in Iowa have provided us with leads and information to go on. This is a very active investigation. We are pointed in a direction, but you know, as far as imminent arrests or anything, I don't have any information on that at this time.
Did he probably know the suspect?
Yeah, we don't. Information suggests this isn't a random crime. We believe that there was some type of relationship between the victim and the offender.
But that's kind of a quiet neighborhood up in that southwest area of town. I mean, it just seems kind of atypical.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it is. I would argue most neighborhoods in Faribault are relatively quiet. It's this type of violence or you know a homicide investigation will go a year or two without a murder, and so it's something that certainly has had an impact on the community. I've had community members reach out to me with their concerns for their own safety, and I think that's understandable. I live in this city, and you know, this crime impacts people, and I understand that. And I think that while I want to assure people that I don't believe this was a random crime, I also encourage people always to be vigilant, to know their surroundings, to pay attention to their neighbors. And I think that, hopefully some of the information, we have neighbors that do that in this community, and they've been a great resource for us in the last 24 hours to help us with providing information. So obviously we've done an area canvass, we've talked to a lot of people, but we haven't heard from anyone, or everyone, I should say. And I think if there are people that feel they have information, we want to hear from them. Even if they feel it's trivial, let us make that determination. So, we'd encourage residents who have information or may have seen something suspicious, particularly over the last weekend time period, especially on the southwest side of Faribault. If they have information, we'd appreciate them reaching out.
So I don't feel the public isn't at risk here.
No, I don't think so. There are some things and evidence and other things that I can't get into that point that this was not a random crime. However, I always hate to say there's no threat to the public when someone has been killed and there's a homicide investigation and no one's in custody. To me, that'd be disingenuous to me to say as a chief. So. But should people be in fear and stay at home? No, I don't think we're talking that way. Obviously, I think in this instance, the victim offender, there was some type of relationship.
And one offender, likely one suspect?
Offender or offenders, I'm not willing to say at this point.
Sure. And did the man live alone? To
my understanding, the resident at that house lived alone, yes.
Any idea roughly how old?
In the 70s, I believe.
And then the person for the scheduled appointment, is it police understanding that he was deceased at that point when that call was made?
Yes, we believe yes, he was deceased at that time. The exact date or time of death is I don't know that information. That's part of the investigation the medical examiner does to try and narrow that window. And that's what we're doing as well, from trying to gather evidence, talk to people, look at things that are within the house and other things to try and determine when this crime may have exactly occurred. So.
Are you able to say anything as far as just describing the scene at all, or what officers responded to yesterday?
Other than to say that it's obviously a death scene, and in my experience, death scenes encompass many different things from, but it was apparent to the officers that this death was suspicious and that something had happened inside the residence. Without releasing any more details, that's probably the closest I can get to saying. It's not your typical, officers knew that something was not right.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thanks. And, the plan is, as soon as we have that official identity from the medical examiner's office, we'll release that information. And then obviously, like I said, this is a very active investigation. I've had people here that have been working for 30 hours straight and don't plan to go home anytime soon. So when we have information, especially when it looks like we're closing in on this, we'll provide an update as well. So.
Chief, how infrequent is that? Actually, you said an interesting point. I think in Minneapolis, when they have a homicide scene, the two investigators are there. This is Faribault.
Yep.
This is kind of atypical for you guys.
Yeah, it is, but I'm often asked, how hard is it to investigate a homicide? Well, the principles of investigation are the same, whether you're investigating a simple assault or a complex a homicide case. The stakes are higher, though, right? You have a deceased person and all the impacts that has. So, but the elements of what you do are the same. You look for the evidence, and where the evidence takes you is where your investigation takes you. And I'm very confident in my detectives. We're a full-service police agency. We don't have a lot of homicides, but we investigate crimes the same regardless. We haven't had a homicide in a few years here, but we do have them, and we investigate overdose deaths like homicides as well. So it's no different. So I wouldn't. People shouldn't underestimate the skills of my detectives and our officers. They're very good at what they do, and we have resources outside of Faribault as well with the BCA to rely on for forensic evidence and processing and those type of things. So I'm very confident in the job that will be done here.
And I know this is hard to look ahead, but do you expect some sort of update tomorrow, just trying to plan ahead?
Yes, I mean, some of those things, like I cannot tell you exactly when the medical examiner's office will confirm the identity. They take their time, and that's for a good reason. Obviously, we have a belief who the victim is, but until that's official, I would just hate to share that. And I will say, we have been in contact with the family members of who we believe the deceased is. So, we are working. We are working with the family. It's always our concern with the victims and those that are left behind. So.
Of course. Thanks, Chief.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a safe drive.
And you've been listening in to a press conference in Faribault today. That was the police chief talking about a suspicious death that was discovered yesterday at a home on Mitchell Drive. Now, so far, there is no name of the person who's deceased, of the victim, that they've given because they're currently undergoing an autopsy. But they certainly feel like they have a murder investigation on their hands because the scene that the police officers encountered certainly indicated that. And they are on the hunt for a suspect. They have a car that has been tracked to Iowa and has been possessed by an Iowa Police Department at this point, but they haven't named any persons of interest, and they haven't said who they think a suspect might be, but they are certainly looking for that person, and nobody has been arrested in this case. Again, there will be more updates because as this case continues to build, they'll be able to release more, including the name of the victim. That victim is a person in their 70s, and right now police are not sure when this person died, but again, they certainly feel like they have a murder case on their hands. It is most definitely suspicious, and we will have updates on fox9.com and on the air, and we'll see you at 5 o'clock.